If you want to know not only how to prepare for the OAT, but also get a competitive score, this is going to be one of the most helpful videos you can watch. I personally got a 370 on the OAT, so today I'm going to be sharing my 5-step blueprint on how to study for the OAT and why I used OATBooster as my only study tool. Before I walk you through the 5-step blueprint, here's some quick context. I wanted to go to optometry school as long as I can remember, so my plan was to write the OAT the summer after 3rd year of undergrad, so all the relevant prerequisite classes were still fresh in my head. That same summer, I was working part-time as well, which allowed me to have some structure and allowed me to leave my house more often, so I wasn't just always staying at home studying. Along with studying and working part-time, I still wanted to also enjoy my summer and do all the things I like to do. I didn't want the OAT to feel like this dark cloud hanging over me for 3 months. Having a clear system meant that I could study consistently and still see my friends and do all the things I like to do in summer. And that's why this blueprint works. It gives you structure for studying, but you can also enjoy your life outside of studying. Step 1, orientation phase. This is all about understanding what you're about to get into before you touch a single piece of content. Here, your only job is to learn the OAT layout, understand the sections and the timing, watch a few overview videos, compare a few resources, and then choose your main study platform. For me, that was OATBooster. Once I realized OATBooster had a 12-week study schedule that had break days built in, the daily tasks were lined up for me, and all the content was in one place, it removed half my stress for me. I feel like one of the most stressful parts of getting started is thinking, what should I study today and how should I study this material and how do I know I'm going to be able to study everything I need to know. That's one of the things I really liked about OATBooster because it was all laid out there for me. For me, that made me more confident about tackling the studying because all I really had to do then is show up and do the things that were on the list for me to do that day. There's no extra mental load about thinking how to study, and that's what I needed. No extra thinking required. So once I was fully oriented into what I was getting myself into, it was time to actually start studying. Which brings me to step number 2, the absorption phase. This is where you're gonna pump all the information into your brain that you're gonna need to write this test. During this step, I was following the OATBooster study schedule that had everything laid out for me day to day with the notes, videos, practice questions. So I wasn't really thinking about what to do that day, I was just doing it. So for me personally, I invested a lot more time initially into biology because it's a subject I felt most confident on. So I wanted to get as much biology learning out of the way as possible so I could save more time later on with the topics I felt like I will definitely struggle with. Organic chemistry and physics. Just because it's an absorption phase though doesn't mean you're not still practicing what you're learning along the way. You should still do the practice questions that are a part of the schedule because doing the questions are just going to help consolidate the information that you're learning for that day to make sure you still kind of got a grasp on what you did that day. Also, one of the biggest advice tips that I've learned that I still do in optometry school to this day is that treat studying like a job shift. So like 6 to 8 hours. Tell yourself, I'm gonna start at 9, I'm gonna have a lunch break at 1, and I'm gonna be done at 5. That way, you know what time you're starting, you know what time you're gonna end, and most likely you're gonna study efficiently because you have an end target time in mind. Before I started doing this method, I would just start studying when I felt like it, and I would linger around my desk all day long just waiting to be done. Most of the time, I wouldn't even get that much done. Having a clear end time for the day actually encouraged me to work harder and get as much work as I could done before that time. And honestly, this is what allowed me to enjoy my summer the most because once it was my end time, 4 o'clock, I knew I was done so I could enjoy the rest of the evening guilt-free. What also helped me was switching up my study spots so I wasn't always at home. My undergrad campus was also in my hometown, so I spent a lot of time studying there. If your university has a pre-optometry club, you should see if other people in the club are also studying for the OAT the same summer as you, and you could have a study buddy. And it's okay if you don't have a study buddy in your hometown. I personally didn't, but I did join the OATBooster study group on Facebook. It was super helpful for asking questions. Other people were asking questions that I honestly personally had too, and I could see people's responses. You can see what other people are stuck on, and honestly it just helps you feel not alone during the process. Going back to study methods, for different subjects you also may have to use different study methods. For me, the subjects that I needed the most work on were physics and organic chemistry. For these, I really like the high yield cheat sheets. Even just before I went to bed, I would just take a quick look at the cheat sheet and it would help just summarize and consolidate things. And OATBooster's mechanism videos for these were just the best because I could actually see what they were doing and how to tackle each question. I also really liked that the second week of the study schedule, OATBooster had a diagnostic practice test day. Even though I was nowhere near knowing all the material, it really set the baseline for where I was, and every single practice test I did after that helped me see how much I improved from last time. You get the real feel of what the timing is like for the OAT, and you know your weak spots early on. Key idea here is that you can't really test your knowledge until you have the knowledge. So you want to absorb all this information first, and then we're going to refine it later. It's okay if it's not all memorized perfectly. That's what the next step is for, which brings me to step 3, the application phase. This is the practice phase. This is where you shift from learning to refining what you've learned. During this step, I was in tune with OATBooster's review phase. So here I was doing tons and tons and tons of practice questions. Every single practice question I did and I got wrong, I really dived into why I was getting that wrong. For every question, OATBooster gives like a pretty good explanation of why the right answer is the right answer and why your answer was wrong. So taking that information into mind, I was really internalizing it and understanding, okay, I got it wrong because I was thinking of it this way, kind of making notes, and also definitely analyzing patterns into why I was getting questions wrong. For example, I remember when I was doing practice questions for physics, I saw a pattern that I was consistently getting optics questions wrong, ironically enough. So that prompted me to go back and spend more time on optics. Safe to say though, by second year optometry school, you will be very strong in optics. Anyways, this step is all about having your brain retrieve the information rather than just recognizing it. The content you were learning before was just a theory, but now that you're practicing it, it's reality. So it's really important you're not skipping the practice questions. Once I started consistently applying the knowledge, I moved on to the hardest step for me, which is step 4, the simulation phase. This is a final 2 to 3 week push, but this is the one that's going to help you feel your best on the real test. In this step, your job is to remove all the surprises. You're not really learning new content, but you're learning the experience. This is when I shifted into doing OATBooster's full-length exams. This helped match the real timing, so I was building the endurance, and it was also helping reduce the real test day anxiety because I was getting into this habit of doing the same thing I will on test day. So by the time test day actually came, I knew what this would feel like. I started the full-length practice exams the same time I would on real test day. I knew on real test day my test was going to start at 8:30, so I was doing the OATBooster practice test at 8:30. I was also nervous about getting there on time, and I knew the testing center was a 30-minute drive. My campus was also a 30-minute drive, so 2 times I also drove to campus and started the practice test for 8:30, accounted for the 30-minute drive, and made sure I was starting the test on time to also account for the drive and get into the habit of waking up, getting ready on time, eating breakfast, getting out the door, and still starting the test. This might sound a little excessive, but seriously, if you have test day anxiety, if you create this system in your brain and you expose yourself to the situation a couple times before, on test day, it's not going to be the first day you're experiencing said situation, so you won't be as nervous as the first time you did it. Also, this phase at the time felt especially hard for me because previously, when I was just doing the regular practice questions, I was scoring well and I thought I knew the information really well. But then when I started doing my first few full-length practice exams, I wasn't doing as good on those tests. So I kind of felt doomed at first, and I thought that maybe I'm forgetting everything and I didn't know anything. It's really about getting the timing down. So this phase is definitely uncomfortable, but it's the one that makes your score jump the most. I stuck with this phase and I kept doing those full-length exams, and then finally I got comfortable with the timing, and then finally my score started to reflect all the work I put in. Even at the end of the step, you probably won't feel 1000% ready for the test, and that's okay. You have to trust though that you put the work in, so once simulation feels somewhat normal, you're gonna enter the final step. Step 5, the execution phase. This step isn't about studying anymore, it's about allowing yourself to perform. This step is all about keeping your routines normal. Make sure you're getting your sleep in, calming your nerves, and you're really just gonna trust yourself and all the preparation you've put in these last few months or the last few weeks, and you're gonna allow yourself to do the best you can. By test day, you're not gonna be guessing your way through the OAT. You're just gonna be executing a system that you've already simulated multiple times. So that's the entire staircase. Orient, absorb, apply, simulate, execute. 5 steps, and you're gonna ace the OAT. If you have any questions about my timeline or more about how I studied with OATBooster or how I was working part-time while I was studying, let me know in the comments. Even though I'm in optometry school now, I remember exactly how stressful this phase was about writing the OAT and wanting to get into optometry school. So I'm happy to help however I can. If you want to try using OATBooster for yourself, feel free to use my discount code for 10% off. If you want to learn more about OATBooster, I've also added a link in the description. I hope all of you found this video super helpful. You totally got this. You're gonna crush the OAT. Thanks for watching.